Good morning and welcome to the Ridiculously Early J Morning Show. My name is Michael and I'm your host. Today we are going to continue working through the backlog for JPrez, the presentation tool that we are developing on this show. Yesterday we worked through a bunch of little bugs and small issues, and now we are picking up right here with the idea of colorizing the input history for the standalone REPL. If we run JREPL in the JPrez repository, so tangent storm JPrez on GitHub, there's a file called REPL for our read eval print loop. It also contains a little section at the bottom that allows it to run as a standalone program. And if we type I10, it colorizes that code while we're typing it, but as soon as we press enter, that colorization goes away. However, when I embed it inside of MJE, the program that is to become JPrez, and I press Shift T here and I press I10, so we have other problems, but it does remain colored in the REPL here. One of the problems being it doesn't show the results when you add new values yet. So we're working on that. Anyway, so the goal is to get this colorization in the standalone REPL. That should be very easy since it already works in the embedded version. I think I just need to move that piece of code. Let's find out where that is. I think it's this line right here. So the echo history lives in this world namespace, which is in worlds.ijs, which handles the idea that you can go back in time, that you can undo your REPL interactions. It spawns a new world every time you do an assignment, or actually every time you type anything, so that you can roll backwards and each world tracks like where the top and bottom of the window are, like what's on the screen at any given moment. And I think the answer is to just move this right into that, and then it's part of it. Maybe add a flag. Maybe at some point in the future we might decide that we want to render this in something that isn't a terminal, like maybe render it in HTML or any place where we might want something other than virtual terminal escape codes. But we can handle that when we come to it. This is easy enough to just move into that place. I'm going to move that here. Yeah, so I see why I did that. I mean, I did that because the colorize function, right, is like now we're creating a dependency between those two things. I'm okay with that for now. Since every place I use that, I use the colorization feature at the moment. So we're gonna do that. We're gonna say require up here. So require toke.ijs for colorization ehistlen. I lost track of where I was. All right, so exec in world. This function does a lot. I probably should clean this up at some point, but I'm okay with this. So basically, just at the very top, we're going to say original link to the history, and then right. So save that. Now let's move it down here. We're passing it in as the Y argument to exec world. So this should be Y. I think this is fine. The fact that we're using the namespace is redundant, but I think we're fine here. And colorize, but the comment is no longer colorize input. Colorize the entry in the input log. But actually, somewhere in here, we actually add it to ehist echo. All right, but okay, so right after we echo it, we'll go back and do that. We need to track the length. We're just going to say, instead of echoing the history, echo. So echo colorized entry in the input history. All right, so instead of echo world, we're just going to say ehist world is equal to that, and we don't need the length because we're just going to append it to the front. I needed the length before because we also wind up echoing the results. So you get back a string, you break it into chunks, and you echo those chunks to the screen, and so that was what that was all about. But since we have time to intercept that now, we don't need to do that. My muscle memory tells me Control-C breaks there, but it's actually Control-Space now, after yesterday. So RL reloads the whole file, and then that's not what I want. I want it at the end, right? So let's do ehist world, and we can remove these parentheses, ehist world, comma, so we're appending it. Yeah, and we do want a box because it's a box string. I bet we could just say this. Let's see. Let's find out. Okay, so Control-Space, reload, and now first 10 prime, didn't that? Try this. I don't know why that would have broken, but I'm not going to mess with it. Reload. Whoa, that's interesting. What does echo do? So we removed a line that said echo, and I bet echo initializes this in some way. No? Oh, so we do need ehist. Okay. Equals the length of ehist. So this is what's going wrong. lines box EY. Okay, hang on. Let's rewind this to this point. We could certainly do echo 1, 2, 3, 4, comma y, and then EH len is equal to len ehist. Whoa. This should not be. What have I changed? This should have been a trivial edit. Get the world.ijs. That's how it goes sometimes. So instead of echo world, we have echo. It's conceivable that this needs to be echo underscore world for some reason, but I don't think so. What's happening? Why is it producing this behavior? Ehist world is what? This is literally the same. What could be different here? All right, so what do we change in MJE, right? Same thing. We took that line out. We said each line is length of the ehist world, and then execute the line, and then at that slot, we insert VT color underscore toke underscore line. Just as a sanity check, I'm going to turn this off. I would expect if I turn this off and do nothing else, I would see I would see this should just print, but with everything should work, but it should not have syntax highlighting. It has syntax highlighting when you're on the line, but otherwise it doesn't. So that makes sense. Everything's fine there. This line does nothing. It assigns a local variable. So this line is doing something wrong. So if I remove this, this should also work, but have the so this should have been a no-op, right? So VT color is doing something strange. This is really weird. No idea what I did that would have changed that. I did a series of operations that had no side effect. But, okay, it's working. I'm a little confused by that. Not enough to spend more time working on it. So let's see if what I expect to be true is true, which is that if I now break this and I say J REPL, and now I type I10, I get my results, I20, I get my results, and it stays syntax highlighted. So that was the goal. So I guess we're good. All right, MJE and worlds.ijs. And we're going to say, what do? We colorized input history for standalone REPL. So move colorization for input into worlds so REPL can use it. You know what I think I'm going to do? I'm going to move that to, does it make sense to move it to the REPL itself? I think so, just because that function is a little complicated and we've already loaded this here and those lines should do just as well here, but really can't do it there. All right, so at the moment that we run this, the REPL has not been created yet, so that object doesn't even exist. And I don't want to turn this into a bunch of moving stuff around, so I think I'm going to leave it like this. I do want to change this in the future, but I'm going to say we have shipped our chunk of value, and we don't need to change anything else. So in the inbox, I'm going to say, when we go back and clean up how MJE initializes things, see if I can move the VT coloring step for input history into REPL itself using something like an addHistLine method. Okay, yep. Come here for the weird J characters and you get traditional object-oriented design problem. Sorry, the MJE.ijs. All right, so, and worlds. Yep, okay, I think I was already typing this. Move input line colorization MGE to worlds so we can use it in standalone REPL. That's okay. Start REPL cursor at top of screen. So the idea is that the cursor started right up here when I started the system, and here in MJE, the cursor starts at the bottom. So the difference is that I've overridden this hist lines. I added an extra step. These are very similar. So the difference is that this one is actually looking at the entire history of the world, right? So we're always showing the very last item. In other words, the standalone REPL does not have time traveling. We don't have the ability to undo and go backwards. So the standalone REPL should also get time travel And then the two versions hist lines can be the same. Okay, I'm good with that. I think this is slightly wrong now because 1 minus the absolute value of the length. So basically, if it's empty, then return an empty array of boxes. I suspect this might actually be redundant here. I don't know. Let's find out. Let's just leave this here as a comment. But the main thing we want to do is we want to determine the history. Yeah. Why is it -1? I don't know. It says -1. I'm going to leave -1 I'm not sure why this is behaving the way it is. I'm not actually sure. I'm going to try this, but I feel like I'm not thinking about this. I'm just doing like pattern matching, and I don't think it. Yeah, this isn't. Okay, I see. The number of lines is not the length of the history in this version of the thing. It's rather the number of lines in the history at this point in history, like in this world. Because it's looking at the length of the entire history, which includes the future. So that's why it's at the bottom of the screen. So instead we want, so this is a name, this is a string, and we want to evaluate that string, which is what we were doing down here. Is NL a special, what, NL, is that special? Why is that special? New line? But new line is, oh, nameless, right, yeah, okay. So that's a built-in, but it doesn't matter, we're hist length, hlen. Just so Emacs won't turn it purple. Okay, so hlen is the number of history lines at this point in time. Okay, so now we have hlen here. We don't want the length of it. We're going to use that. So now, I think everything is fine. I do feel like this should be a 2, unless. So this is like some global constant. We should go back to calling this. How do you know what it is? It would be self equals coname, which is the h of self -2. Like -1 actually makes sense because of this reason. So y -2, and so max line is height -1, so h -2. So next to last line is h -2. Okay, I think we're good. Reload. Didn't like that. H of self. All right, so I'm creating it in the base locale, and then I'm just calling it down here, and that is so I don't have to say base after every one of these words, but I'm going to do that. Base. Pick is a built-in base. What we really want is just this line right here is the magic line. It needs to be overridden. But getworld REPL is equal to, so there'll be a function that returns this. And then this will be getworld. Now W is equal to getworld. It's not return, it's just that. We just evaluate the expression. Okay, and now I can say, so let's just make sure W is getworld, so we can actually just inline that. We never refer to it again. Getworld. Okay, hlen is number of history lines, and what it would have been before, so the original would have been length of ehist world. So the length of the entire history tells you which world you're in if you never do any time traveling. So self equals coname. So now that we're in that thing, we don't need to refer to self. We just have this. Now that we're in the right namespace. And then now that we use this only once, we can put this here. All right, so all this, I believe, now works. I don't know if it was easy to follow, but let's try this again. Woo! This nonsense again. Okay. I think it's printing the entire history. Leave one line at the bottom for next. Okay. Oh, I didn't make this part of the REPL. So yeah, it is showing the entire history, but I need to override that in this version of the code. All right, so now let's try it again. Space RL. There we go. We're at the top of the screen. That's messy. Why is this happening like this? Why does it keep doing this? Like, it looks like it's drawing the right thing, but it looks like if I press Control L, it corrects itself. Why? Okay, what is causing this? This is a weird bug. First 10 primes. If I go up one more line, it's like the render is suddenly not in the right state. I've got a mystery here. I have no idea. I have no idea. All right, so let's see. It is printing out this line here. First 10 primes. What if the height of this thing is set to a really long number Yes, I think this is my problem. I think this is I think we have a widget that goes all the way down to the bottom of the screen, and because it was using this constant that was here, what did it say before? gsd_mje.ijs. So it was that I overrode this method before, and it was explicitly referring to it would be one of the red lines that I removed. So hist. I think hist is not being used to set the height of the history. That's 24 lines. Maybe, let's see. So the REPL is the height of is hist plus 1. Height of the editor is hist. I'm going to remove that. I was expecting it to just not be set at all. So this tells me that maybe that is not my explanation here. But let's break it, reload, and see if it had any effect. No. What should happen is it should echo only the lines that changed. And I'm getting the impression that maybe it's not going up to the upper left-hand side of the screen, and it's not positioning the cursor correctly. So it's just outputting all the lines at the bottom. I don't think it has anything to do with this. I think there's like a bug elsewhere that somehow this is exposing. See, because like these two lines were the ones that just changed. JDemo, the line stayed the same, it went black, and then this one switched. And so if I do it again, that's why we get this like little striped pattern. It's not positioning the cursor correctly. But why did the change that I made suddenly trigger that problem? It could have something to do with something we did in the last... We changed this, and it started happening when we did this too. I'm going to git stash. Everything's fine. jmje.ijs. Everything's fine. Everything's fine. Everything's fine. So that includes the last change that we just committed. Everything's fine. Git stash pop. JS. What have we changed? We've changed the way one widget renders itself. I don't think the bug is here. I think that we are exposing a bug already present in the system, because it seems like a lot of things that we do trigger this issue. I haven't reloaded yet. And I reload, I should get this error again. This is the second time this has happened. Somehow the render function for the app, which is, so if we look at jkvm UI app, the render here, right? This is looping through, and it's doing go to xy 0 row index. Or row index is the counter for the change buffer. Somehow, this is being ignored. Okay, basically, for those of you who are just joining here, we have a bug. What should happen is that when I move the cursor down one line, this line becomes black, this line becomes highlighted white. And that does that by going right here and rewriting this whole line, and then going right here and rewriting this whole line. And what was happening instead is it's writing the code to the bottom of the screen. So as you move this cursor, you got this little striped pattern where it would show you the line that got unhighlighted and then the line that got highlighted, and they were always appearing at the bottom. And this has happened twice now in the past 49 minutes. And then the bug goes away after I completely exit the program. So something I'm doing, maybe it's crashing and I'm just ignoring that it's crashing and then fixing what the crash is, then reloading again. And then when I reload the second time, that crash has caused it to be in an invalid state. And then I get confused. I don't know. Okay, so when I see stripes, I know to just exit the program, start over again, and just make sure that the bug really exists and is not caused by something like that where I have left something in an invalid state. So I have a set of terminal widgets and of things that look like the terminal, and the user interface or the API for drawing to one of the widgets is the same as drawing to the actual terminal. I guess next time that happens, I should inspect the term stack and see, like, maybe that's messed up. Because it is that you push something to the stack, you write to that thing, you pop that terminal off the stack, and now you've got like a buffer in memory that you can stick somewhere and like blit it onto the screen. So each little widget, a fresh empty screen, and does have a fresh empty screen, but it's just the size of the widget. And then they're composed into a scene, and then whatever. I don't know. I think something like that is going on, and I expect it to keep happening, so I guess we'll learn more as we go along. But for now, Shift-E gives us hello. I10, we got our syntax highlighting up there. I do have a bug that when I press N now, it's going to break. Oh, I wonder if this triggers it. Yeah, so new REPL line base has broken it, so now we're back in the real J console. Reload, and now do I get this? Nope. All right, whatever. We've got a mystery on our hands, but it has nothing to do with what we just fixed, which is working. Oh, so now I wanted to fix this, right? So now that we have this getworld thing, the idea is that getworld is the only line of code that is being overridden. And so I can move this in here and share that information with REPL itself. So this becomes the official implementation of hist lines. This becomes the official getworld method. This goes away because it's the old version of what we have above. We have a new unified version of this. So now let's just double check one more time. Let's try and reload and see if we get reload. No stripes. Everything seems to be working. All good. Okay. And then if we run JREPL I10, ooh, that didn't work. Hist lines getworld. It's a string. It's not the length, it's a string, right? So we have to format it. We have a number here when we're sticking a number in a string, so we're getting a domain error. Right, so JREPL, and now I10, value error, hist_l12, okay? Worlds, no, see conames. We have a world 1 and a world 2, okay? So let's look at how that used to look. I think we just need the word world in there somewhere. So GD of REPL, so we can see the old version of this code. In world, hist_l1 in world. Yeah, and what in world does is it's an adjective that takes the name and it just builds that name for you. So we need this. So it's actually what we want is world, comma that. No, comma this. All right, so this is the world that we should be in at any given time. It's not a number, it is a string, and we're only using it as a string, right? Yep, except we might want, it's not 2, we want world 1, right? So if we say hist in world, should give us that world 1. Yeah, so we want world 1. So we just want 1 minus that. So -1 minus that. So save a character. Subtract 1 with this. This is like decrement. All right, and then format it. So I think that's right now. No, this one doesn't have RL, so we I10. Syntax error, get world. Okay, yeah, that's silly of me. That's not a string. That's the rank operation. Strings are delimited with apostrophes or single quotes. One more time. I10, I20. Ooh, this world 2. I think that's what we want. It's just this world. That's what we want. I10, I20, I30. Yeah, that's right. Okay, so that works in the standalone REPL, and it should work in here. Okay, that was a lot of work, a lot more work than I expected, and we had some strange bugs along the way. It's called a Heisen bug when you can't reproduce it, but it is certainly some kind of state-dependent bug. All right, but I think this is good now. Right, so GD of those, and we actually did this as well. So we actually did. Oh, I didn't call it add hist line, but that's the vhist. So time travel and hist lines can be the same. Yeah, so we have the 2 versions of hist lines that are the same now, so that's good. And we've done this. Okay, and that's an hour. So we did 2 things in an hour. I think I'm going to go ahead and call this a day. So let's go ahead and commit the code. And while I'm doing that, thank you for watching. Go watch these other videos if you like, and I will see you next time.